All right, joining me today is Corey Fry, who fights Radek Rousal at Oktagon 79. That fight is on November 1st. So, Corey, I want to start here. Let's start by talking about your last fight. Obviously, it doesn't end the way you want with Vladimir Lengal, but it was going really well for you right up until it didn't. Did you feel like you had to go back to the drawing board after that one, or just more of what worked for you in that fight?
Yeah, I had to take a step back from it, to be honest. That's why I've had such a bit of time off. I had to take a step back and look at the fight as a whole and see where I went right, where I went wrong, and that's why I started working with a sports psychologist and just tried ironing out a couple of creases that was more. I don't think I've ever struggled physically in my fights, or technically. I've always struggled like mentally a little bit, having a little bit of self doubt and lacking confidence. So I just think that fight, I was like kind of like looking past the fight. I wasn't really, I didn't really want to be there, kind of thinking. I know it's a bad thing to say, but I've had to take a step back, start working with a sports psychologist, and start appreciating where I am in my career. So yeah.
And that idea of being present in the fight, has that been the biggest change for you leading into this fight? Being, present in the moment in the fight?
Just trying to control, like not fighting with emotion, kind of thing, and just being a little bit level headed, and like I said, just appreciating where I am in my career, because I feel like because my career took such a big boost at the beginning by beating Ilbe in Germany, and then I ended up picking up the loss against Holzer, which I could kind of get my head round because I knew he was obviously a top level guy, and it was a really close fight. But this one, I feel like with Lengal, sorry, because I was dominating so much, and I got caught with that shot. I had to take a step back and just like reevaluate what was going on, take a minute, and then I'll get back to it.
Well, and obviously, you're still on that upward trajectory. You find yourself here in the co-main event of Octagon 79 when they called you for this opportunity and said, "Hey, we want to, have you fight another guy in enemy territory in a co-main event." What were sort of your first thoughts on that opportunity?
Yeah, I love it. Do you know what I mean? I've been on UKFC since I was probably about 17, 18 year old. So I've always been in my comfort zone. So I actually like to take myself out of that comfort zone and challenge myself in a different way. And Rochelle's a fight I've been asking for months. I've been asking for this fight for 6 months. He's obviously had other plans, but yeah, we've got the fight signed, and I'm looking forward to it. Forward to putting on a show.
Now, talk to me about what you like fighting about in enemy territory. That discomfort you sort of talked about there. What about going into somebody else's land like you did with Ilbay? What about that appeals to you?
I'm not too sure, to be honest, but like there's just something about I'm literally meeting up with my brother, my two coaches and mates, Steve and Jordan, and we're literally traveling to Czech Republic to have a fight and then come home. It's like there's just something about it I really really like, and I don't know. It's just a new challenge for me mentally. That's one thing I've done this camp is I've really challenged myself mentally in all different areas. So like really pushing my gas tank, like trying to cover all the gaps that I've had previously. So that this is just one more layer to my armor as such, like going into enemy territory where there's no one backing me, they're all backing him, and I want to go and upset the party.
Now, I've talked a little bit to some fighters who fight for Octagon who are from either the UK or from Ireland and said they go into those enemy territory spots in either Germany or the Czech or Slovakia or whatever it might be. And they actually come out with fans. They say they come out with people cheering for them. Has that been the case with you as well? Do you feel like you win fans when you go over there?
Yeah, and I think over there, which is a little bit different to England, is they love the promotion. Like in England, a lot of people come to support one fighter and get off, but these guys are here from the prelims. Do you know what I mean? They actually just love the event, and they love everyone. Do you know what I mean? Like when I went to Germany, there were people asking me from pictures and that lot in middle of the town centre and stuff, which is obviously I'm not used to. But yeah, the Czech fans and the German fans, they're brilliant. They really get behind the show and really get behind the fighters.
And so, with that being said, is that sort of the reason why you've stuck with Octagon? I know some people sometimes explore another opportunity here or there, but is that sort of what you love about working with Octagon?
Yeah, that and the scale of the show that they're doing. Do you know what I mean? They're literally selling out arenas, which not many people are doing. And just the fact that they have treated me well, I feel like the time off's been due more to me than them. They've been offering me fights and stuff like that, and we needed to take a bit of a step back. But even like I pulled out 4 weeks ago because of a bad injury, um, that I couldn't get over, so I didn't have enough of the camp for the fight. So I pulled out, and there was instantly straight like right, get you another fight kind of thing. So not many organisations do that. If you pull out, usually you're to the bottom of the pile, but these were keen to get me straight back in and give me a fight that I wanted against a fight that's good for me. So I couldn't ask for more, really, from Octagon.
I like that. Now let's talk about sort of what you like in that Rosal fight too. Is we've mentioned a couple of times you like the idea of going into enemy territory, but when they called you with that name, which you've publicly been calling for, what were
Yeah.
sort of your thoughts on them finally getting it for you?
To be fair, I was surprised he took it because I feel like he likes to take fights dedicated to him, where I think I'm the polar opposite. I'll just take, I'll fight anyone they put in front of me kind of thing. And I think I've proved that in the 3 fights that I've had. I've fought 3 of the biggest names in the division. Do you know what I mean? Especially with Max Holzer and Ilbe. Not so much Lengal, but Lengal's I feel like coming towards the back end of his career, but he's still a very dangerous opponent where I think Rochelle kind of cased his entire career around him. But I'm quite surprised that he took this fight because I feel like I'm a lot more well-rounded than him. I think he's very one-dimensional, and I think he's a hit and hope kind of guy, where I'm at kind of like an aim and fire. And I feel like I'll pick him apart in every dimension of the fight.
Well, I was going to ask you about the stylistic aspect of it. You mentioned a little bit of what you like in there, but what else do you like about sort of how he fights and brings the fight to people?
I just think he's reckless. I feel like I'm a lot more calculated, and I'm a lot more patient than he is. I think he just relies on just pressure and just being reckless, and I think that's one thing that I had to take a step back and look at from the previous fight because that's something that Lengal does himself. I don't think he's the most technical fighter in the world, but he's so reckless. He ends up catching me somewhere. So this is a fight where I've had to take a step back, look at him as a similar but different opponent, and still like try to eliminate them risks as much as I can, and just be calculated, patient, and pick him apart whenever I want.
And is that for you like the perfect kind of lineup for what comes after hiring this mental coach, right? Like you get almost the same style basically to see, hey, is this working? Is this going to be the right fix for me?
Yeah, definitely, and as well, it's a little bit like a little bit of revenge in it, being like the teammate kind of thing. And in the future, I won't mind if he sticks about. I won't mind the Langal rematch, to be honest. I won't say immediate because obviously I owe Marco Novak a fight, which I've talked about before in previous interviews that I won't mind fighting him in the future anyway. But yeah, I can't wait to show the improvements that I've made mentally, physically, and I think it's really going to show on Saturday.
Well, that leads me perfectly to my last question. I always like to end these things with a prediction. So November 1st, how do you see this one ending?
I reckon I finish him within 2 rounds.
All right. Well, you heard it here first, folks. This is then Corey Fry, who fights Radek Rousal at Oktagon 79. Once again, that fight this weekend, November 1st. Corey, thank you so much for the time, man. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.